In this video, we are going to look at some Boolean operations, and we're going to do them in part design. We're going to use part design first. If we have time, I'll show you some of the part workbench Boolean operations, but they're very similar to the ones in part design. So I'm going to focus on part design because that's where I do most of my work. And we're starting out, basically, I've just opened a new file and creating a sketch. Now what we want to do is we want to show you how to do some Boolean operations with two bodies. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I found a little bit quirky. Before we get started, this is my version of FreeCAD. So I'm working with 0.19 and it is revision number 23546. It's the latest one I've downloaded. I haven't been to check to see what the latest one is right now, but this is the one I've been using for a little while now. Okay, so to start with, we're going to create a couple of bodies. So I need to create a couple of interesting bodies. So I'm going to start with something like this, and maybe like this, and let's have this guy come off here, go here. I just want to create something that you can see which way round it actually works. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and we'll do a little bit of trimming up here. So we're going to trim this guy and we're going to trim this guy. We will trim this one and this one, this one. Oh, apparently something didn't like trimming there. So I can't, we might have to just delete those lines. Yes, that's all one line, so we need to delete that guy, and then we're good. So you can't trim a complete line. There has to be a break. You have to break the line to do a trim, so that's why it complained at me. So this is going to be my shape, and I'm not really going to constrain it. Now, I'll be honest with you, if you're going to do Booleans, you should constrain your sketches, because strange things can happen to models if they're not constrained. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to constrain that. I think if you want to see how to constrain things, my previous video was on constraints, and you'll see it's pretty easy to constrain that shape, but we're not going to do it for the purposes of this video. So we're going to close that sketch, and we're in part design, of course. I started out in part design before I start the sketch, and I'm going to create a pad. I'm going to hit this button to bring my drawing to the middle. So all that does is that centers everything that you have on screen, so it fits it into the screen. And then I'm going to rotate that a little bit so you can see that it is actually already a pad, and I'm going to make that pad, just so we can play with it, I'm going to make it 50, and I'm going to make it symmetric around the axis there. Okay, so we have that shape. What we're going to do now is create a second body. So let me just okay that guy, go back here. Now, this body I'm going to actually give it a name here, because when you're doing these Boolean operations, it's always good to know which one is which. And they start out as body and body 1 and body 2 and body 3, and it gets confusing very quickly. So I'm going to call this my base item. And that's so I can purely so I can distinguish it from the next item that I create. Now I want to show you something that's kind of interesting, certainly in this version. I'm going to select this part, I double click on it just to make that part current, and I'm going to select a new body. So now it puts a body underneath this part, and I'm going to rename it now. I'm going to call this cut item. So that's the bit I'm going to use in a cut. So we're going to do a cut, and we're going to do a fuse, and we're going to do a Boolean common. So now under this cut item, I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm going to do it I'm also going to do this in the XY plane. And look what happened. My original part has disappeared from my sketch. If I hit center, there's absolutely nothing there. And that's really annoying. So I don't know if that's unique to this particular version, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm going to take this cut item. I'm going to put it outside of this part. So now it's at the same level as the part in the tree. Then when I go back into the sketch and edit it, ta-da, I have that piece there. The reason that piece has got to be there, so if I'm going to create a piece to cut out of here, I need to know where it's going to be. So I'm going to do a simple cut. I'm going to simply cut a slot, I think, into this guy. And one of the things you want to do is you want to set this sectional view. That way you can see what you're drawing. So I'm just going to create a very simple slot. And I create it to there. And I think I might create another one that goes this way. Just for grins and giggles. I just want to do something that's, interesting at least. So we're going to trim this guy up. We're going to get rid of that part and that part. Can't get rid of that again. Same thing. It's the full line, so I'll have to delete that. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that piece in the middle. And exit that. Select that line, delete it. Select that line and delete it. Okay. So now I have a little weirdo shape there that I can cut out of this guy. And of course, in this particular instance, I could do that as a pocket. If I just did that sketch in the first body and just did a pocket, I can certainly do that. So you have to, when you're thinking about doing Boolean operations, you have to understand why you might want to do a Boolean operation as opposed to just doing a pocket. For me, if I have the opportunity to do a pocket, I'm always going to pick the pocket. It's much easier. But there are some times when you'll want to do a Boolean, particularly if you have, let's say that slot has a taper on it, then cutting that out of this piece would be much harder to do, or you couldn't do it as a pocket very easily anyway. You can probably use a taper in the part, but it would be easier just to create this and do a Boolean. I'll show you another design in the cut that is actually pretty cool in it, and it will show you another good reason for using a Boolean cut. Okay, so we're going to close that, and now we're going to pad this sketch. I'm going to do it as a pad. I'm going to do it symmetrical, and I'm just going to keep going until it sticks out of this piece. So my pad is growing right now, and remember that was 50, that piece. So as I get to 61, you can see it sticking out both sides. That's basically what I want. I'm going to say OK. So now if I want to cut this part with this part, what I do is I go back to my base item, make that current. So you double click to make them current. If you look at that one's bold now, if I double click this one, this is now the current one. So I want it to be the base item that's current. And now I select the Boolean operation, and you see the base item has disappeared. It does that on purpose because it wants to allow you to select the cut item or the fuse item or the Boolean item. Because right now in part design, when you select that body, you can then select what kind of operation you want to do with it. Now, the add body is a little bit difficult to see, but when you click that, if you watch this button, you'll see it sort of depresses. Do you see that? The add body went down, so it's kind of a depress on that button. Personally, I'd prefer if they change that to select or something like that, like they do with other features. But you click that, you click any part of that body that you want to cut with, and it will do the Boolean. Now, it's actually done the Boolean because Boolean is on fuse, and fuse says take this part, join it to this part. So that worked. Now I'm going to show you how to do a cut. So you just do cut, and there, sure enough, we have cut that part out of the original part. And then if I wanted to do it as a common, you do that. Now the common looks just like that other one, or this cut body looks like nothing changed, but it did change because it's only leaving the parts that are common with the original. So where this stuck out of the original body, the base body, this is now shorter. So in this case, a common wouldn't really make sense, but the cut makes sense. So there I have my cut, and you can see I've cut all the way through because my part was sticking out on both sides. So I'm going to leave that as the cut, just to demonstrate a cut. Now, if I want to add something to this body, or I want to do something else with this body, I can always use this base item and create a new body and do another Boolean operation. You will also notice that the base item is the only body you can see right now. The other body's gone in here. If you look here, there's my cut item body. So I can still go all the way down the tree, so inside the Boolean, to the cut item body, to the pad that was originally this shape, this cut out shape, to its sketch, and I can edit the sketch. And in editing the sketch, and this time I'm going to just turn this guy off so you can see the sketch. So I'm going to just space bar on the base item, and so that allows me to see the sketch a little clearer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the sketch. So let's say in this case I want to add a radius here, and I'm going to make that radius a little bit bigger than that just so you can see it. So I'll give it a dimension, and we'll call that a 5 radius just so you can see it a little better. Now I'm going to have to put some constraints in here because it's doing some weird stuff. So I wanted this to be straight up and down there, like that. So that's basically the sketch that I wanted. Close that sketch, turn on my base item again, and now you can see that radius actually changed. So you still have all the parametric abilities with the Booleans. You can still change the sketches, and it will change your model in the Boolean. So everything still works, still parametric, and these Boolean operations just basically a way to use a tool, the tool in this case being this cut item, to make changes to an existing item. Now I'm going to show you one that is not easy to do with a pocket. So I'm going to just do one more body on this and just show you how that works. So I am going to create a new part, or a new file, and then a new part, and then a new body, and a sketch. And what I wanted to show you is if I do a sketch here, I create a part that is, let me just do it with this guy. I create a part that goes like this. Just go to there, say close, pad, and then I create, I'll just say okay at 10 mil, and then I'll create another body, and I'm purely putting it outside of that part so that I can still see this body. If that is a bug and it gets fixed, I wouldn't do that. But so I'm going to create another piece that we're going to add to this one. So we're going to say okay, and I'll just zip that over this way, and I want to do a drawing here. It's going to be like that, and I want to pad that piece. I'm going to do it reversed. So there's my pad. I'm going to say okay to that. I'm going to go into the sketch, going to move its attachment. Just by a little bit. All I've done is I've moved the attachment so that if I zoom in there, you can't see a witness of it on the backside, but it's still attached in there. And I have yet to fuse those together, so they are separate bodies at the moment. So if I turn that one off, it's that body that I just created. Okay, and so let me just turn this body back on. Go back here, and now we're going to do a Boolean. What I want to do is I'm going to add this to this. So let's make that one our current body. Going to do Boolean. So a minute, something's not right. There you go. We're going to make that our current body. Going to do a Boolean. Going to add body. Say OK. And now that's all fused together as one part. And then I want to create another body. Outside there. And we'll do a sketch. Render it in this plane. That's my XZ plane. Say OK. And I'm going to just make a square. Say close. Then I'm going to pad that. And I'm going to reverse that. And I'm going to pad it so that it comes all the way up to there. We'll go there. And let's look at the bottom. Yeah, just about got a line in the bottom. So now if I say OK, and this time I want to take this body that's already current, and I'm going to cut from it. Remember to hit add body. I'm going to cut from it that body, and I'm going to say cut, and I'm going to say OK, and now you can see it's actually cut out a hole in there. I'll just let you see that. You can see it's cut out a hole in there that was that other shape. That's something you can't do with just pockets. If you try and do that with pockets, it's going to be very, very difficult anyway to get to the same solution. So it gives you an idea, another idea of why you might want to use Booleans to do cuts. So finally, I want to show you how to do a common, or why you might want to do a common. Let's get rid of that. We're not going to save any of that, so you won't see that on my thumbnail because I didn't take a picture of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a new file, and I always add a part and then a body, and then we're going to put in something on the XY plane. So we're going to start out on the XY plane, and we're going to draw a shape. So my shape is going to use this guy. This one's actually quite useful for if you want to create a continuous shape, a polyline, as opposed to these single lines. They all come in useful, but I like to use the polyline quite a bit. So if I want to do something that looks like this, maybe, see if we can do something that's going to make sense. And we're going to go here and here and here. And that's going to be my first shape. And I'm just going to modify that because apparently I did it that far on that one. There you go. Now what I could have done is I could have drawn all that and mirrored it if I really want it all to be exactly the same. And of course I can constrain all of this and make it all symmetrical and all that good stuff. But for what we're doing now is I'm trying to show you the Boolean, so I don't want to belabor all the constraints and all the shapes and all the other techniques. I'm just trying to show you these techniques. So of course, if I was doing this and I needed to do something that was accurate, there are many other things I would do to do that. Okay, so we're going to take this shape and we are going to pad this shape. And I'm just going to pad it symmetrically, and I'm going to pad it 100 millimeters. I always work in millimeters. I grew up on inches. I actually was an engineer working on machines that were all in inches. But I must admit, working in tenths of inches, working in decimals of inches is great, but working in fractions to me is just more hassle than I need. So I always work in millimeters just because it's easier. Sometimes I even like if I'm doing something that's a 1/4 inch in diameter, I'll make it 6.35 millimeters in diameter. I generally don't use imperial measurements very much anymore. Okay, so that's my first shape. Now you know exactly what we got to do. We got to create a new body. And again, I want that body outside so that I can see it when I'm see what I'm drawing in the sketch, because this body will disappear if I leave it in line there. So I'm going with this guy, and then I'm going to do this drawing in this direction. So I'm going to say OK, and bring that back to the middle. And I'll just give it a little tip around so you can see what's going on. So that's the shape that I drew before, was that shape. And now I'm going to draw on the side of that shape. So I'm on the side of that shape. And I'm going to draw something, again, with a polyline. And I'm going to say start here, and we'll go to here. And we'll go along here, and then we'll come back here, and we'll go out here. And I'm going to hit this guy so I can see my lines. And then I'm going to go to here, actually I'm going to go all the way up to here, and then I'm going to go up to that line there. And then I'm going to move this 1 point. No, I'm not. Made a mistake. There you go. I'm going to move this point up to here. And I'm going to create a couple of other things here. So I'm going to take this guy and run it that size. And I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to run it to that size. And just because I'm going to go that guy and make them equal, because I want them to be equal. And then I'm going to trim this line and this line, and I'm going to trim this line, and that'll be good enough for what I want. And then I'm going to say close to that. And now I'm going to pad that sketch, and I'm going to pad it symmetrically, and I'm going to pad that for 200, say. Why not? Okay, and then I'm going to do one more sketch. So we're just going to go this way, and go here. We're going to create a new body. I'm going to put this body outside here, and then we're going to create a sketch. This time we're going to sketch it in this direction here, which I believe is that one. All good. And then go like that. We're going to sketch shape, use our polyline again, and we'll go from here. I think we're going to go to here. We'll go to here. We'll go here, here. We'll go back over there. And we'll go this way, just to give ourselves some interesting shapes, basically. That one's going to go to there, and then I'm going to trim that one back because I don't really need that to be all the way along there. I'm going to close that. I'm going to pad that, and I'm going to pad it symmetrically, and we'll just keep going up till it pops out through the roof. Boop. That should be on both sides now. We should be pretty good on both sides. Zoom out a little bit. Yep, we're good there, we're good there, we're good there. Everything looks wonderful. Go back here, and now we're going to create a common. So you can probably already see what shape this will leave. These commons are a little bit tricky to do to end up with the right shape, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't rehearsed this, so I don't know what the shape's going to totally look like, but we can always change it because we have the sketches. So what we're going to do is we'll select one of these bodies to be our current one. We'll do a Boolean, we'll add a body, and then we're going to add a body. You see how the bodies disappear to make that nice and interesting. So this would be a fuse. It would just stick all that lot together. A cut might be a problem because it doesn't know where to cut from where. And here's the common. So as you can see, we made a common that has this little shape on it. And we have all those angles and all those shapes are all in together. And made sort of a little car. And if I'd have made, maybe I should have made that hood at a little bit of an angle, but let's just say okay. Put that in the middle. There you can see you can create a shape. I'm going to let you work with the common and come up with the shape. So all I did is I drew the front, the side, and the top, and then I commoned them all together. And that gives us sort of the basis of a car. And this piece here is bugging me a little bit, so we probably should go in and change it, but I'm not going to get a little OCD about it. But you can see it gives you the basis of a shape. Now we can take this Boolean and we can still add bits. So if we want to put a hood ornament on, or if we wanted to add some wheels or whatever we wanted to do, we can certainly do that. Using the Boolean operations and adding more pieces to it, or we can, use other techniques to come up with the same sort of thing. So that is the common. And then the other thing I wanted to just quickly talk about is if you go into Part Workbench, you have a lot of these Booleans over here. So you can do, this is the two shape Boolean. This is a cut of two shapes. This is a union of several shapes, so you can get several pieces and stick them all together. Where you can see you could do that in part design as well. This is the intersection or the common of two shapes. And then this one here is splitting tools, which is kind of interesting. What it'll do is it'll allow you to take one solid and split another solid, so you can end up with 3 parts from 2 pieces as opposed to just one part. And then you can move those around. You can explode them and move them around. But I'm not going to go into all that in this video. So just wanted to make you aware of the Part Workbench has a lot of these Boolean operations in it too. For the basics, Part Design has everything you need in this one Boolean operation. Okay, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in this video. If there's anything else you'd like to see, feel free to put that in the comments too, because I'm more than happy to make a video about something if people want to see it, because that makes it more fun for me to actually make it if I know somebody actually wants to watch it. If you've liked the video, please click the thumbs up. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. And if you hit that notification bell, what it'll do is it'll tell you when I release a new video. I'm pretty much releasing them on a weekly basis. They do take a little while to put together, so I appreciate you taking the time to watch them. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.